January 3rd created an opportunity for a change in direction for Venezuela. And Venezuela, under the leadership of Delcy Rodriguez and her brother Dr. Rodriguez, have been moving at Trump speed. There's been more positive change for the people of Venezuela in the last 2 months than perhaps there had been in the last 20 years. And that's a credit to the leadership that's here. We've just come off of fantastically positive, constructive 2 days of meetings. We had dozens of companies here from the United States that were interested in investing in Venezuela, coming back to Venezuela. They were here perhaps 10, 15, 20 years ago. Some of these companies had operated in Venezuela for over 100 years, and they want to come back. That's a reflection on both the opportunity, the resources, the natural resources of this country, oil and gas, also the natural resources around minerals, but it's a credit to the people of Venezuela as well. So we're very excited about how constructive and positive these 2 days of meetings were. We continue to move towards normalization of relationships between the United States and Venezuela. And again, grateful for all of you to be here today and grateful for our hosts. We had a fantastic meeting, and I'm happy now to take a few questions. Thank you.
So you tell me, why do you think that the economic momentum will continue with U.S. companies?
Well, I think there's some durability already. One of the important things that's happened since that first week in January, we met with all the oil and gas companies at the White House, and they said, yes, but is Venezuela going to take the actions that they need to create an environment so that capital can flow to this country, both human capital and financial capital. Just weeks after that, again, under Delcy Rodriguez, Madam President, and her brother, Dr. Rodriguez, they passed this really significant new hydrocarbon law, which improves the transparency, the consistency. It cuts red tape. It creates an environment where companies feel comfortable that they want to be able to reinvest and come back in here. So that was a major step. When we were here with the mining companies yesterday, they said, wow, wouldn't it be great if we had a law like the hydrocarbon folks? And Delcy said, hey, we're going to introduce it on Monday. We're going to have a new law. And so again, when we see the progress in changing durable structure of how investment would be handled, that speaks really, really well for the potential for a lot of economic activity coming back to this country.
Secretary, what is the plan for the U.S. to make sure that the criminal elements, the guerrillas, the entrenched government corruption that has been part of the mining sector, of illegal mining, how do you make sure for investors that it is safe for them to invest here? And will the U.S. take an active role in that in a military way? Who's going to fight those actors? And why do you trust Diosdado Cabello, who still has a bounty in the United States, is a wanted man in the United States, and you're sitting right across from him? Is he going to be involved in those negotiations?
Well, you've asked a number of questions, but let me just start with in terms of how do we create, again, confidence for capital to flow here. I think what you saw with the group of companies that were here in the mining sector were companies like Peabody, like Glencore, like others that have been operating in this country for a long time before they left and want to come back. And these are companies that have a proven track record of high integrity, whether it's in Central Africa, whether it's in Australia, whether it's in the United States. And one of the discussions we had with the leadership today was let's work together to make sure that those companies that are coming to invest are the kinds of companies that you would want to have as a great corporate citizen. Many of the oil and gas companies were here have worked in my home state where I was governor for 8 years, and they're the best corporate citizens you could ever want.
But there's no guerrillas controlling the mines there, or child labor, or environmental degradation. How is that cleanup going to take place, and what role will the U.S. and the Ministry of the Interior under Cabello play in that transition process?
Well, I think the presence of the security concerns that you described was a function of the economic environment. But with the new mining law, just like the new hydrocarbon law, that's going to create the opportunity for organized companies that can come in and create great high-paying jobs, take care of the environment, just like these companies do in the rest of the world. And I think that economic force is even more important than a military force in driving a transition because it's going to be felt by the people that live in those regions as well.
Any comment on Cabello, quickly? Just on Cabello, any comment at all?
Excellent. Where's CNN? Where's CNN?
Right here.
Okay, there you go. Hi there.
Hi there. The government of Delcy Rodriguez has made some compromises in the security area, how they will handle, for example, the gangs that are working right now in that mining area.
Well, it's a little bit of the same question. I mean, I think that that activity filled an empty vacuum. It went in and it created economic opportunity where there was none. But I think that if you have a superior economic opportunity, both for the team members, the communities, the country, everybody involved, I think you're going to see this government very concerned about, providing the right kind of security. We heard assurances in the meeting today and yesterday that if companies wanted to get to these areas, do due diligence, think about reopening mines, maybe even getting back to mines that they themselves were running 15 or 20 years ago, that this government would ensure their security. So I'm feeling very optimistic about an environment where investment is going to flow, not just to offshore oil and gas, not just to Caracas, but actually to the interior where these enormous resources exist.
What is your message to Venezuelans in Venezuela and Delcy Rodriguez about the power of U.S. dollars to create durable change, about investment, having tools for diplomacy and reform?
Well, I would say anything that I wanted to say to Delcy, I've already said the last 2 days because she's been so generous with her time, spending time with meetings, with the two delegations, with dinner last night with her and her brother. But I would say that currency was one of the topics that we talked about, and it's an important one. The steps that are being taken to increase the flow of capital back into Venezuela certainly is going to help stabilize the currency. It was interesting. We had one of the leaders of one of the co-founders of Coinbase here, who's helped create the whole cyber currency era, and we know that a lot of Venezuelans that are on the ground, on the front lines working this country are protecting their own Venezuelan dollars by transferring them over to stable coin. And then transferring back when they need to spend them. So the people of Venezuela have been resourceful in trying to protect their own resources from the hyperinflation that's occurred. But I think the faster that we can move on normalizing relations, the faster you're going to see the gap between the official and the unofficial currency rate close. And we of course know you walk into a grocery store in this country, you're going to see items priced in the dollar. There is an effect of dollarization already happening. It doesn't have to be an official policy, but anything that we can do to help create a stable currency where the citizens are not impacted by the negative impacts of hyperinflation would be very positive. And of course, again, at the high level, getting capital investment flowing in this country will help. The bank reserves at 70% are among the highest in the world. That's choking off consumer credit. There's a big opportunity here for the average citizen to have more access to credit, less hyperinflation, greater jobs, and they'll see the benefits. Because, of course, when the oil starts flowing, those revenues, a big chunk of those going back to the government to provide services for the people of this country. So, today we had positive for Chevron, who's been operating here, announced this morning in our meeting that they had record production. Yesterday was their all-time record production, and they know they can go even higher than that going forward. So whatever goals that were set for 2026 for oil and gas production, I'm positive that Venezuela is actually going to exceed those.
U.S. sanctions on Venezuelan oil? If so, when? And what would that mean for U.S. investigations into wrongdoing?
The process right now, the question was about sanctions. The process right now is to clear the path for capital investment through issuing licenses. There was 4 general licenses that were issued that opened up broad swaths of the oil and gas industry. Stay tuned and expect to see a similar set of general licenses for the mining industry, and that would include people that want to invest in mines, people that want to ship mining equipment, people that want new technology to come here. We want to open the door for those to come back in, and the fastest path that we can do right now is through the licensing process, and the first of those took several weeks to get out. The next wave, took a week. The next wave, they maybe take 2 or 3 days. Because we've got a template that we can follow. We told all the companies that we met with the last 2 days if they were having any issues with getting material or people through visas or capital into the country, talk to us because we want to help those that want to come here to do constructive work with high integrity, we want to clear the path for them to get here and start working.
Let's wrap it up with Wall Street Journal.
I was actually going to ask about the gold sanctions as well. Since you already asked that, did you talk about democratization at all when you were at dinner with Delcy Rodriguez and Dr. Rodriguez?
Well, we certainly talked about a positive future for this country, and there's a number of things that are happening again under the current leadership that are very positive for everybody in this country, and I think you're seeing that in the laws that are being passed. They're again creating a framework that is going to be more peace, more stability, and more prosperity for the people of Venezuela. So right now we're very pleased in the direction that this country is going, and the United States is very happy to be a supportive partner in this progress. And again, for those folks back home, understand when Venezuela, which is just hours away from the United States, it's a 4-day ride for a tanker ship of Venezuelan oil to get to America. It's sometimes 40 days, to get to Asia. There's such an opportunity. People are concerned about oil and gas prices in America. Venezuela, with the resources they have, absolutely huge win for Venezuela, huge win for America. We also know that one of the highest strategic national security threats to any democratic nation right now is China's control of critical minerals. So as we saw at the ministerial that was held at the State Department with Marco Rubio a few weeks ago, 51 countries coming to Washington, D.C. wanting to sign agreements where nations could trade freely with a price floor around critical minerals. The resources that are here around not precious metals like gold, but critical minerals in this country, and minerals that you need like bauxite for aluminum, for defense and for advanced manufacturing and for your laptop. And if people don't understand critical minerals, just understand that every phone and every camera that you're pointing at me right now has got rare earth minerals in it. Sometimes an iPhone, as many as 42 of the top 60 might be included in that device. So it's not just for defense and for computers. It is everybody needs to have a secure supply of these to keep the global economy going. The United States is committed to leading in that area. And again, Venezuela, as a trusted ally and partner of the United States, that's the future vision, could play a huge role in that. So with that, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for being here.
Bien, palabras de Doug Burgum, secretario de Interior de los Estados Unidos. Entre sus primeras declaraciones, él afirmaba estar muy agradecido con el presidente Donald Trump por el giro que han dado las relaciones bilaterales entre Venezuela y los Estados Unidos. Asimismo, hablaba acerca de que esta cooperación en materia energética entre ambos países va a ser muy beneficiosa para ambas naciones. En este momento vemos cómo Doug Burgum aborda el avión con bandera americana que ya lo despide de esta visita de 48 horas a Venezuela, secretario de Interior de los Estados Unidos, quien se reunió con Delcy Rodríguez el día de ayer en Miraflores. También es importante señalar que Doug Burgum llega a Caracas precedido por una exitosa carrera en la industria del software y 2 mandatos como gobernador de Dakota del Norte. Es un estado clave también por su riqueza petrolera en Estados Unidos, aunque compitió contra Trump en las primarias republicanas de 2023. Tras retirarse, se convirtió en uno de sus aliados más cercanos, llegando incluso a la lista corta de posibles vicepresidentes antes de la elección de J.D. Vance. Burgum es el primer secretario de Interior que ocupa un asiento en el Consejo de Seguridad Nacional, consolidando además su papel como arquitecto del dominio energético que la Casa Blanca busca proyectar en todo el hemisferio. La llegada de Doug Burgum a Venezuela representa el 4º despliegue de alto rango de la administración Trump en el país en los últimos meses, sumado también a la reciente visita del jefe del Comando Sur, el general Francis Donovan, quien sostuvo también encuentros estratégicos con el gobierno encargado de Delcy Rodríguez, al igual que el secretario de Energía estadounidense Chris Wright y la visita técnica del director de la CIA, John Ratcliffe. Ven en las pantallas de VPItv ese avión con bandera americana que lleva al secretario Doug Burgum de vuelta a los Estados Unidos tras esta visita. Los dejamos precisamente con las imágenes de ya esta despedida del suelo venezolano del secretario de Interior de Estados Unidos, Doug Burgum, en el país.